So may I ask the colleagues who do not want to attend the following session to please proceed and continue their discussions outside the plenary so that we can start the next debate. Thank you very much. Yes, it's getting quieter. Great. So, als nächster Punkt der Tagesordnung folgen die.
According to our agenda, the next item are statements by the Council and the Commission on the first European Annual Asylum and Migration Report and setting up of the annual Solidarity Pool. First, on behalf of the Council, Minister Bjerre has the floor.
President, honourable members, Commissioner, Europe is facing with massive problems related to irregular migration. The topic is very high on the agenda in the Council, and we are working hard to find an agreement on new and innovative ways on top of the Asylum and Migration Pact. Yesterday's presentation by the Commission of the European Asylum and Migration Report marked the start of the first annual cycle under the Pact. The report provides a strategic overview of the area of asylum and migration. It also evaluates our preparedness to respond to different challenges and adapt to changes in the situation. Together with the report on the state of play of implementation of the Pact, it confirms that important progress has been made, both at EU level and in Member States. And while we still need to carefully examine its findings, I believe it already provides useful inputs. The solidarity package and the assessment also show the complexity of the process. Further efforts are needed before the system becomes fully operational. We need to improve readiness across Member States and ensure that rules apply everywhere in the same way. This is essential to the solidarity mechanism to work. The Danish Presidency has been preparing for the first annual solidarity cycle, fully aware of the challenges. We are working to develop a mechanism that will show strong solidarity with Member States under pressure in accordance with the fine balances between solidarity and responsibility set out in the Pact. We will organise meetings of the high-level EU Solidarity Forum. At these meetings, Member States will be asked to pledge their solidarity contributions in line with their respective share. The overall level of solidarity to be provided on the solidarity pool will also be discussed. Member States will need to pledge, but they will be able to choose between the different types of solidarity measures. Relocation, financial contributions, alternative measures, or a combination of all. In a second stage, solidarity may also take the form of responsibility offsets, which reduce the burden of Member States under pressure. As Presidency, we aim for the Council to be able to agree by the end of the year on the Council Implementing Act, which will establish the Solidarity Pool. We are already working intensively with Member States in a spirit of cooperation and trust in order to deliver on this important task. But we should not forget the broader perspective and the need to address migration in a comprehensive way. Besides implementing the Pact, we also need to continue working on other key elements, especially on irregular migration. Europe is still receiving too many irregular migrants. We are making important progress on the two proposals on the safe country concepts and on the return regulation. Before the end of the year, we aim to adopt mandates that will allow the Council to start negotiations with the Parliament on these proposals. We count on efficient cooperation with you in this regard. We believe that concluding negotiations before the full application of the Pact would enhance the coherence and effectiveness of the whole system. By the end of this year, the Council should also adopt the Union Resettlement Plan for 2026 to 2027, so that Member States can provide safe and legal pathways for persons in need of protection. We're looking forward to the Commission's proposal, and we will try to adopt it as soon as possible. To conclude, let me highlight that our focus is now on delivery and credibility. A better migration system cannot function without continued political will, innovative thinking, and cooperation among all of us. We must show that Europe is capable of dealing with these issues and not ignore the challenges facing us. Thank you.
Vielen Dank für die Kommission.
Thank you very much. Now on behalf of the Commission, Commissioner Brunner.
Madam Chair, honourable members of Parliament, Minister, among all the challenges we face in Europe, be it war at our borders, the need also to foster a resilient and sustainable economy, migration, of course, remains high on the agenda, as you mentioned, Minister, as well. And we are aware of a certain sense of frustration stemming from the impression that our rules are being ignored and that many people without a need for protection come and stay. And it is our collective duty to restore that trust between our member states, that we can operate one common system for managing migration, trust between citizens and their governments, that they can restore control over our borders and our asylum systems, and also trust that Europe can address people's legitimate concerns. And with the Pact on Migration and Asylum, we push forward with the largest reform on migration policy. And we're turning a page and taking important steps in that direction, in restoring trust, as I said, and restoring control. The Pact is not perfect, of course not. Nothing is perfect in this respect, but it's something we have in our hands, something we can work with. And we added more missing pieces with a proposal on returns, safe third countries, safe countries of origin. And we see the positive effects in real time. 1 month ago, we successfully launched the entry-exit system. And in the first 4 weeks, we already registered over 4 million entries and exits and almost 3 million third country nationals. So with this entry-exit system, we know who enters the European Union, when, where, and who leaves the European Union, when and where. And now we take another step by launching the first annual migration management cycle. And the momentum is actually on our side. The numbers are going down. Illegal crossings are down by 35% in the last 12 months, and they have to stay that way, of course. And we also see that member states are making good progress on implementing the Pact. For example, by developing national plans and adapting national legal frameworks. But of course, the clock continues to tick, and member states need to step up their efforts to ensure everyone meets their deadlines, particularly when it comes to certain areas, be it Eurodac, being adjusting also national frameworks and also providing infrastructure and human resources to deliver on screening and border procedures. And I made that clear to all member states that they can, of course, count on the Commission to support them for all these necessary steps. But the most important way we support the process is by providing a balanced EU framework, one that delivers on the core goals of the Pact, which is strong external borders on the one hand and responsibility measures accompanied by solidarity for those member states facing the most disproportionate pressures. And the initiatives the Commission is putting forward today on the first annual migration management cycle actually do exactly this. They create an instrument for member states to support each other as a part of one European Union that faces these challenges together. And regarding the solidarity pool, I want to make one important point. I know that all member states are affected by the challenges of migration. And in one way or another, all member states will also benefit from the provisions of the Pact. The member states who will be able to access the pool in this first cycle is, of course, fact-based. And it also reflects the relative scale of pressure. The determination is based on agreed criteria and is the result also of a careful assessment. And overall, I would say it reflects three major trends. First of all, the pressure of illegal crossings along the Mediterranean routes. Secondly, the support member states have shown to Ukraine in the form of temporary protection. And thirdly, the challenges of strained reception systems or the threat of weaponization of migration. On the design of the pool, the key word, I would say, is flexibility. Member states are free to choose the form of solidarity they contribute to the pool, which can be through people solidarity, you mentioned that, Minister, financial support or alternative measures. And finally, remember that this is only one part of our framework. Solidarity and responsibility must go hand in hand. They are twin principles, I would say, that support each other. And therefore, the pool is only one way in which we are making migration management more European also. For example, we are also working as one union to step up returns of those with no right to stay in Europe. And the proposal on returns and the other proposal on safe third countries and safe country of origins are important elements that will complement also the implementation of the Pact. And I, of course, stand ready to support the rapporteurs the best way I can to get to a swift adoption of these proposals. But we will also have to continue to improve migration management, working on two tracks in general. First of all, updating, of course, the legislative framework altogether, and also the work on the ground to solve challenges in the member states and also in third countries. And we will continue in this respect to build partnerships with third countries that better reflect the EU strategic interests. Return must be made to work using all the new tools available to their full potential. And part of this cooperation is to work with partners giving protection to people in need, supporting also their efforts and reinforcing their capacity. And for this today, we are also presenting a proposal for the first Union resettlement plan. So, honourable members, today's package, I think, marks quite a major milestone on the path you actually set for us a year and a half ago when you adopted the Pact here in the Parliament. We are not yet at the end of the path, of course, but if we keep up our pace, I'm sure we will get there at the end. Thank you very much.
Vielen Dank, Herr Kommissar.
Thank you, Commissioner. Now we'll move to a round of speakers on behalf of the groups. First of all, on behalf of the EPP, Mr. Torbay.
Thank you, President, Commissioner, Minister, colleagues. The launch of the annual migration management cycle is a concrete step towards implementing the Migration Pact, which is important, but it's also about finally taking back control of migration in Europe. And it is always important that we, amongst ourselves, debate migration issues, But I would actually say that what's really important now is also that we start to deliver results on the ground. And here my message is, we have the tools. That is the message that should be clear for Commission, but also for all the member states. And now it's time to start to also use them. Of course, we have further work to do. We need to deliver on the return regulation. We need to deliver on the safe third country concept and list. And EPP will be responsible. We will make sure that this institution will be ready to negotiate with Council when Council is ready. Because this is the part that needs to be added to the Migration Pact. And that will lead to a more fair and balanced approach to handle migration in Europe. Because I think it is important for us to remember, where were we 10 years ago? Well, we did not in 2015 have a fair system. Let me just take one example from my own home country, Sweden. In 2015, we had 160,000 persons in 1 year seeking asylum in Sweden. And Sweden is in the northern part of Europe, I need to remind you. How is that even possible? I think it is important that we see this as a European issue, that we take responsibility, also the solidarity together. And I think that the citizen, rightfully so, should ask for us to take this responsibility, and EPP is ready to do exactly that. Thank you.
Dankeschön für die S&D-Fraktion.
Thank you for the S&T Group, Ms. Mendes.
Obrigada, Sra. Presidente.
President, Commissioner, Minister, colleagues, the S&D is clear. The pact we're talking about was a historic step, yet there are some unfortunate elements. Perhaps it's because we've had delays. Perhaps it's just listening to some of your speech, Commissioner, but there's a lack of transparency. It's not really clear how the mechanism, the solidarity mechanism, is going to function. It's not clear about all the rules. So, an example. You say that there's been a 35% decrease in illegal crossings. That's good. But have we been sure that all human rights have been upheld? Second, we can have successes, but it must not be at the expense of people or their lives. Commissioner, we hear a lot about solidarity, but when we talk about solidarity, I have a question. The Portuguese government has said that it's going to expel students who enjoy protection under the Temporary Protection Directive. And these are Ukrainian students who are being thrown out. So is that fair? Final question, Commissioner. The new solidarity mechanism proposes the following. The member states can choose. They can choose between accepting immigrants or they pay a compensation. So every person that is rejected, you make a payment. Well, we must always ensure that rights are upheld under this mechanism. So I've listened to this discussion, Commissioner, and it's a discussion not just about our migration policy. It's about more than that. It's about the continued existence of Europe. It's about solidarity values, or is it about an EU where member states pay because they don't want to accept certain human beings? Thank you very much. I now give the floor to Mr. Legeri on behalf of the PFE group, excuse me.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much, President. The Pact for Asylum and Migration that we're discussing today really is a pact of shame. With this pact, the Commission is not proposing a way of managing migration. It's forcing European states to capitulate in the face of migratory phenomena. With this pact, all European member states can refuse to send migrants to where they have to and are faced with administrative sanctions. Anyone who wants to protect their citizens and their national identity is from now on treated as a country committing a crime. We're forcing states to welcome migrants, putting at risk the fundamental values that underpin our continent, democracy. But even worse than that, potentially, you're also letting the wolf among the sheep. Let's refresh our memories. We know that the attacks that were perpetrated in Paris on the 13th of November, the perpetrators came in as migrant flows coming in from Syria. As we read in Le Monde, there was no sympathy for with the majority of people involved in these Paris and Brussels attacks came into Europe by following the same migratory route. We cannot tell European citizens that we didn't know about it. In a violent world, with hatred for the West, we cannot allow ourselves the luxury of naivety. The only policy we need is a policy based on firmness. The only policy we can have is the expulsion of illegal migrants and the systematic protection of our borders. European citizens have a legitimate right to live in peace in their own countries. Thank you very much, President.
Now, on behalf of the ECR, I give the floor to Mrs. Kanko.
Dear Commissioner, dear Minister, migration policy is not just a policy file. It is the heartbeat of our continent's future, touching lives, economies, and security across borders. Thank you for your report. I welcome this report and its clarity on the annual solidarity pool. Yet, true progress demands balance. Regarding return policy, for example, in 80% of the cases, we fail. It leaves us overwhelmed and migrants in modern slavery or certain criminals traveling through Europe unchecked. More efficient and targeted procedures will ensure fairer outcomes for everyone. By incentivizing swift, dignified returns, we reclaim control over our borders. Fewer irregular entries mean fewer tragedies at sea and in the desert, and less power for human smugglers. Better border control strengthens Schengen, protecting therefore the internal market while building credibility with our citizens and partners alike. Creating the vital space for our member states also to invest in genuine humanitarian aid, legal pathways and root cause solutions in origin countries. And creating the space also for our member states to face the challenges together. Effective returns aren't punitive. They are the foundation for compassion. With a center-right vision, we can forge a Europe that's secure, humane and united. Thank you.
Dankeschön. Für die Renew-Fraktion spricht.
Thank you very much. Now, on behalf of Renew, I give the floor to Mrs. Keller. President, Commissioner, Mr. Magnus Brunner, Marie Bierre, colleagues. I welcome yesterday's publication of the annual report on asylum and migration in the EU after its delay. This is an important step when it comes to implementing the Asylum and Migration Pact. I share the analyses that have been presented, and I, together with my group, welcome the transparency being shown when it comes to monitoring the commitments we've signed up to. We're classifying the member states based on the migratory pressure they face. That is a solid basis on which to come up with a European response based on shared responsibility, as Mr. Taubé has pointed out. He, of course, is the rapporteur on the solidarity pool. And so we must continue with our efforts by really implementing the pact before June of next year. We must show firmness and humanity. That must guide our European approach when it comes to asylum and migration. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, on behalf of the Greens, I give the floor to Ms. Camara.
Chers collègues,
Ladies and gentlemen, Commissioner, when this pact was adopted, we already noted a lack of solidarity, lack of guarantee of fundamental rights, and the risk that this is going to remain a dead letter. The first issues of the first annual report on the solidarity pool confirm this. Most member states are considered under migratory pressure and so can get help. These 9 countries have to show solidarity. It's not fair and it's not sustainable. It weakens solidarity, reduces our possibility to welcome people in an appropriate manner. This pact is creating the illusion of providing a solution, whereas leaving the imbalances in place and upsetting our proper application of the right to asylum. So solidarity and free access on legal routes for migrants is absolutely essential. We cannot refer to violence. Human dignity is the order of the day rather than fear and rejection.
Linksfraktion spricht nun die Kollegin.
Thank you very much. Now, on behalf of the left, Ms. Gallen.
Señor Comisario.
Commissioner, today we should be taking a step towards a binding solidarity mechanism. However, what's been presented today is not solidarity, it's abandonment. Spain, Italy, Greece, Cyprus, the southern borders of Europe, we are the ones who are facing most migratory pressure. That's obvious. What seems ridiculous to us is that out of the 27, you've worked out that only 9 countries are going to be contributing or are in a position to contribute towards solidarity. 9 out of 27, Commissioner. And in addition to this, if you can call it a contribution, because it means making a decision either between welcoming or paying the price for not doing so. Is this a solidarity? It's solidarity à la carte. We need to have a mechanism that includes all countries. We cannot be left alone as the countries in the south, and we can't leave people alone either who deserve a dignified welcome. Unfortunately, this proposal is not a mechanism based on solidarity. It's an affront to solidarity because the statistics show very clearly that Europe at the moment is not facing a migratory crisis. It's facing a crisis of values. That is where the threat is. It's threatening the European project. And with this idea, this is what you are working towards. Thank you.
Für die SN-Fraktion spricht nun die
Thank you. On behalf of the ESN, Ms. Khan. Today, in German cities, we are pulling down Christmas markets, not because people don't want Christmas markets, but because it costs too much to protect them from terrorists, and that's due to uncontrolled migration. And now, under this migration pact, Germany is being forced to be part of the solidarity pool. What does that mean? You don't want migrants, then you've got to pay. That's not real solidarity. That is a system of coercion where we cement migration instead of stopping migration, and we are punishing those countries that want to shut off their borders and protect their citizens. At local level, there's a lack of security. And what is Brussels doing? Brussels is passing the buck. And who is going to pay the bill at the end of the day? The German taxpayer. We don't need false solidarity, which is based on false promises. No, instead we need the rule of law. Instead, we need the courage to finally protect our borders. That means that we have heard from each of the groups. Now I'm going to be a bit stricter with the timekeeping. The next speaker is Ms. Dupont.
Vielen Dank.
Thank you, Madam President.
Minister, it was always clear that the path to the implementation will not be an easy one. Too large, the challenges, comprehensive, our answer. Conclusion of the agreement was always only the first step. The ongoing implementation in the Member States is the next one, and the solidarity pool we now have at our hands. The more concrete it gets, of course, the more we need to live up to our responsibilities. Knowing how sensitive it is for Member States, I thank the Commission that they took the necessary time in order to come to an agreement with the Member States, although, of course, we are always in favour of respecting timelines. The paper is one thing, but making the system work in reality is another one. And guess what? The interest of frontline Member States, the interest of secondary movement Member States can be true at the same time. Taking into consideration Member States' positions is not questioning solidarity. It's not giving Member States a leeway, it's making sure that things work. And if for that, constant work with the Member States, acknowledging their unique positions, trying to bring everyone to the table is needed, well, we do it. Because we do not give in to populism, we roll up our sleeves and work. At the same time, the second part of the proposal is important as well, foresight and preparedness will further strengthen our common approach. Now we all need to do our homework. We here in the Parliament, delivering on returns, the STC and SOO, with the proposals at hand, but also the Member States with going on with the implementation of the Pact and working on the outstanding issues like Eurodac, the infrastructure, and so on and so forth. Thanks.
Thank you
very much. The next speaker is Ms. Sippel.
Thank you very much. With a broad majority of parliaments and member states, a new asylum system has been adopted, and the message is very clear. Shared responsibility and solidarity are essential for a successful implementation. It's not off to a good start that the Commission has decided to ignore legally binding timelines, but it's good that it's finally got moving and has published its report on the situation with regard to migration in the member states. The fact that this is a fact-based task, which has become a highly political process in which many member states have only focused on their own perceived advantage, is disappointing. What's added to this is the lack of constructive behaviour on behalf of the German Minister for the Interior. Time is now short. The delay that Commissioner Brunner has tolerated needs to be put right by December at the latest with a decision on the solidarity pool, because without any shared responsibility and solidarity, this new system that we so urgently need will simply not work. Thank you very much.
Thank
you very much. The next speaker is Mr. Tanger Correa.
Senhora Presidente, Senhor Comissário.
President, Commissioner, colleagues. Let's talk about human rights. It's on everyone's lips. And what about our human rights, is my question. The human rights of European citizens. In Portugal, 20% of Portuguese people live under the poverty threshold. We have unemployed people, homeless people. What about them? Are we going to cast them aside in favour of immigrants? I don't think that's the point. We have to protect our own. We have to protect our own first. Second, the right to asylum is an enshrined right, but it is not a universal passport. Asylum must be for those who are truly persecuted, not opportunists. And now this so-called annual solidarity pool, let's be clear, it's not solidarity. It's a market where we soothe their own consciences. The poor countries will have to deal with this issue with the migrants, and the richer countries will simply pay them off.
Mr. Tanger Correa, excuse me, do you accept the blue card? Do you accept the blue card by colleague Oliveira? No. Okay, then the next speaker, der nächste Redner ist dann der Kollege Ciriani.
The next speaker is Ciriani.
Commissario. Thank you, President, Commissioner. This report constitutes an important step towards the implementation of the new pact, recognising the central role of Italy in managing flows of migrants and defending borders. This route, however, has to be translated into operative capacity, so we'll wait and see with our proposal on what happens in the Council decision. We need to have specific instruments for Member States. It's our duty to ensure that those instruments are in place in due time. So our focus has to shift with the decisions of external dimensions and look at addressing the roots of the causes and dealing with countries of origin and transit and blocking traffickers' routes. We need to have efficient relations with third countries, and we need to extend and sustain the models that we want to have in place. There are some fundamental aspects set out in the Pact which are useful, and looking at safe third countries, for example, and this will allow us to be more consistent and uniform in our approach. We cannot allow delays. Now it's time to return to addressing the causes rather than chasing the effects. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Mr. Asmani.
Dear colleagues, dear Commissioner and dear representatives on behalf of the Council, I would like, of course, to thank you, Commissioner, for presenting this important report. The Migration Pact is a key solution to the migration challenges facing the European Union, and therefore it's essential that Parliament is fully also involved in both the implementation process and the assessment of the situation in our member states. However, I would have appreciated that we as Parliament had been informed earlier about the progress of implementation at national level, also particularly concerning the border procedure. As a member of the Migration Working Group, I believe that Parliament has been not been sufficiently involved so far. I would therefore like also ask friendly to the Commission to ensure that we are more closely included in this process. I would also want to ask the Commission to keep supporting Member States in the preparation for the timely implementation of the Pact. After all, as you mentioned also, Commissioner Brunner, solidarity cannot exist without responsibility. It goes hand in hand. And when there is still secondary movement in the European Union, there will be also less appetite for solidarity. Thank you very much.
Dankeschön. Das Wort erhält nun.
Thank you very much. I now give the floor to Ms. Jąkowska-Hernik.
Thank you very much. The migration policy is based on false information and doing a lot of harm in the name of post-colonial interest of former colonial powers. You are creating the appearances of fighting against the migrant smuggling. Polish people are afraid that their security is at stake. They see what's happening in the West. But it makes sense to exert pressure because yesterday we were told that Poland can be exempt from obligatory relocation and from the obligation to pay. But this will only last 1 year, this derogation. After that, every year, the European Commission will decide, will it be merciful or merciless? The pact will make it possible for the European Commission to blackmail Poland every year on migration. We are going to say it clearly and loudly. You might create a smoke screen for a year, but our people will not be fooled. The only possibility to act is to create a coalition in the EU in order to bin the Migration Pact. Thank you.
The next speaker is Mr. Anadiotis.
Αγαπητοί συνάδελφοι, χαιρετίζω την αρχή της αλληλεγγύης και... Dear colleagues, I salute the principle of solidarity and burden sharing by the new regulation. This is especially important for countries such as Greece that will have to use the solidarity contributions from other countries. However, Greece is already paying a high price. Solidarity should not lead to any kind of imposition. We should keep as a national prerogative the possibility of member states to choose alternative measures instead of compulsory relocation. The pact should not be a tool of financial pressure or population changes that favor the elites. Illegal flows, especially of military-age men, is a danger for the security and social cohesion, and the pact ignores that. The solution is not to transfer the peoples of Africa and Asia into the EU. The EU should use all tools at its disposal to combat the root causes. So we're asking for a system that will respect national identity and security of the European peoples and, of course, respect the right of the countries to decide in a sovereign way what is best for their internal security.
Thank
you very much. The next speaker is Ms. Pedro. Commissioner, for years we failed. Too much trying, too many emergency summits, too many failures. And the same applied to Portugal. For years, our doors were open. No controls, no criteria. We didn't know who was coming in, what they were coming in to do, and what their purpose was. We called it solidarity, but it was a lack of political courage to really screen. We were just comforting ourselves morally. Now, Europe must show that solidarity isn't a synonym of open doors. No, we can only have solidarity if we also have clear rules. Without returns, there is no believable migratory process. And what's the other side of solidarity? The other side of solidarity is complying with the rules and coming in legally. So this pact is an important step forward, because it's not just about solidarity, it's also about responsibility and accountability, and it's about establishing limits. Thank you.
The blue card by colleague Oliveira.
Yes.
Please, 136.
Obrigado, Presidente. Sr. Deputado Ana Miguel.
Chair, Madam, this report is quite realistic. It shows how cruel the Asylum and Migration Pact is. But there are a few other elements I'd like to talk about in terms of Portugal. Portugal is not a country which is at risk of migration pressure, but migration data has not really been delivered on Portugal. And why did the Portuguese government fail to provide these documents and this data? Because it's ashamed of the situation it's come up with? Thank you for this question, because it allows me to explain what the socialist government left us with when it comes to immigration. And you were part of that government. 8 years of socialist government, but it was chaotic. You wasn't in line with our interests. A threefold increase in migrants. And it was called the welcoming policy, but it was abandonment. It was abandoning the law, abandoning the control by authorities. And there are some 400,000 cases that have not yet been dealt with. I'm talking about asylum cases. So we don't know whether these people should be allowed in or not. So now these cases are being dealt with, and it may be uncomfortable for you, but finally the government in force now is actually bringing order back. Thank you very much. The next speaker is Mr. López Aguilar.
Frau Präsidentin, Commissioner Brunner.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. The presentation of this first Commission report is a first annual plan for solidarity. This is something positive, but also it's fulfilling an obligation that was clearly established as part of our Pact for Migration and Asylum as a binding right or obligation upon member states. This comes as no surprise that in this report we read that Italy, Spain, Greece and Cyprus are finding themselves under migratory pressure. They need this offer of solidarity immediately. That has to consist of binding plans, real tools to help them arrive with dealing with arrivals who are coming in from external borders outside of the European Union. At the same time, it's going in the opposite direction to the commitments that are required when people think that we have to go back to national approaches. That will only lead to failure. I believe that it is essential not only for this solidarity plan to be financed and to have the migration fund as well that needs to reach the member states so that they can comply with their obligations. And once again, we're talking about irregular migration, not illegal, Commissioner Brunner. We have rights and we have resolutions that have been adopted here in this Parliament. Nobody is arriving illegally in the European Union, but they do arrive in an irregular. The microphone has been cut off.
Thank you. Please watch your speaking time. Nächster Redner ist der Kollege Bouchardet Villalba.
The next speaker is Mr. Bouchardet Villalba. More fighting and shootings in Brussels. We're seeing this time and time again. We saw it a couple of nights ago. We don't want burqas. We don't want shootouts. We don't want our own neighbourhoods to become alien and foreign to us. Some have said we want no more, and you fail to understand that. What people are asking for is expulsion and deportation of those who may be here legally, but they're committing crimes. And then we must get rid of all of those who want to impose their religion, their values and their customs without respecting our women and forcing them to cover their faces. Some have come here to subsist on welfare and our public services, our health, our transport, our education. Mass migration is not a solution to any of our problems. No, it worsens things for many others. Your socialist pact will ruin Europe, and our security and our welfare and our national identities will be done away with too. What we need is mass deportation. We want to have safe neighbourhoods and we want to have ironclad borders.
Cards. Senor, you have 2 blue cards. 2, yes. One by colleague Stechowski. Sorry. Do you accept this blue card? Okay. 248 microphone, please.
Thank you very much. You said what you don't want, but tell me any solution. You are every time criticize everything. I never heard something constructive from you. Also, you have it now 30 seconds. Tell me what's your solution of immigration. And tell me one thing, why you use immigrants in your hospitals? Why you use nurses from the Central and East Europe? Why you use doctors in your hospitals? They are also migrants. Could you respond me this simple question? Yes, absolutely.
Sí, me ha hecho muchas preguntas.
Many questions there. One, I would use the police and the military in the Mediterranean, in the Atlantic Ocean, so deploy them, and immediately expel those who have no documents. No help to them. They shouldn't get preferential treatment when it comes to access to housing. They shouldn't get health treatment either, because then there's no level playing field for those who did come in legally, who are here and who respect our rules. Immediate deportation if you commit a crime. And how can you defend them? You've had 50 years of open borders. You know, you've given me 30 seconds, but I could go on for 2 or 3 hours if you wanted.
From colleague Wisniewska, is it still? Yes. 361, please. If you accept it, Senor, yes.
Dziękuję bardzo. Thank you very much, Madam President. Well, I have a question. Would you agree with the following statement? The Migration Pact is about legalizing illegal and criminal activities such as smuggling of migrants into the EU. Would you agree that it's yet another proof of the fact that the prerogatives of the member states are being hijacked by the EU institutions? This illegal migration is a kind of Trojan horse. It's being brought into the EU to undermine our security and to exacerbate the economic crisis. Would you agree?
Pues muchísimas.
Thank you so much, dear colleague. And in fact, I agree. I agree with you, madam. One of the worst things, the most immoral things we talked about in the last parliament was this Asylum and Migration Pact and what it does. It puts a price on a human life. If you pay a certain amount of money, thousands of euros, then this person will be freed. And my country has spoken out about this. We see so many young people who are basically being kidnapped. When a child is no longer with its parents, how can that be? We have many, many minors who are in my country from Africa. These children have basically been kidnapped from their parents back in Africa and not being returned. The next speaker is Mr. Weimers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, according to a report from the Commission, everything is fine in Sweden now. We're under no migratory pressure. Sweden should take in the migrants Europe's frontier countries don't want. And yes, you can adopt your migration pacts. You can publish your reports and launch your migration management cycles. You can propose your first solidarity pool of migrant quotas to be redistributed. But let me be very clear. If the Sweden Democrats and our partners win the elections next year, there will be 0 migrants redistributed to Sweden. None. Nada. Noll. Your report claims Sweden is not under migratory pressure, Mr. Commissioner. Bruna, have you visited Sweden's migrant ghettos? Bergsjön, Rinkeby, Rosengård? Because if you did, you'd understand how detached from reality on the ground this redistribution discussion actually is. Thank you.
Herr Kollege Weimers.
Mr. Weimers.
Right. Dear colleague Weimers, hello? Hello? Do you accept the blue card by Mr. Zipper? Zipper. Yes? microphone.
Thank you very much, President. As part of the rules of order, I would like to react to the remarks made by our colleague.
Accepting the blue card. If I understood you correctly, you said that when your party wins the next election, you will not participate as the member state in the distribution of migrants. So am I understanding you correctly that you are saying that if you win the election, you will breach European Union law? And has that, not under the Dublin system, led to all this chaos that we have, that member states did not follow through with European law? Should we not respect the law? Thank you.
My point is, Mr. Sipa, that the European Union is establishing a system of redistribution of migrants, and Sweden can take no more migrants from other parts of the world. Luckily, the system allows for member states to opt out of this redistribution scheme, and Sweden will certainly use that option. So what I'm talking about is not in breach of EU law, but it is a challenge to the idea that Brussels should take the right to allocate migrants to our countries and dictate the futures of our countries. That's what it is.
It looks as if colleague Zipper has a follow-up question. Is that the case? Or is it a point of order? Sure. Sure there is. Sure there is. Do you...
It's my birthday. I get to debate a lot. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, colleagues. Sehr gut, Herr Sieper, bitte schön.
Wonderful. I think Sweden can do more. I think Sweden is a great nation, not only from its size, but also from its values and its solidarity to those in need. And that is something that Sweden has shown over and over again in the past. And I think you are very, very much mistaken when you think that Brussels dictates anything. The whole idea of the European Union is to share common interest and to find common solutions for that. And you should not be afraid of migrants. You should see those who come and seek refuge as an opportunity to better your society. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Now, the European Commission during the previous mandate had a commissioner named Ylva Johansson who happened to be from my country. She said, Europe needs migration and we need to have forced solidarity, which is to dictate policy from Brussels. I do think that if Sweden gets the opportunity to work with the problems that we have without any further mass migration, we will improve our country. But if we keep on accepting migrants year after year, there will be no room for integration nor assimilation. So what I'm afraid of is parallel societies, segregation, violence, gangs. And you should come to Sweden because it's a real problem. Welcome to my country from here, the Ivory Tower.
So, es gibt noch ein...
We still have a blue card, but we're not taking any more blue cards. But for anyone who is interested, there is a possible that you can follow up on that as per Article 78. But now I'd like to give the floor to our colleague, Mr. Mandl.
Danke, Frau Präsidentin.
Thank you, President. Ronald Reagan said in his day that if you can go to Germany or go to France, but you won't find German people or French people there, but you can go to America and there you'll meet Americans. That doesn't seem to be the case with the current US administration, but it can suggest what might be coming down the tracks to Europe and what it means to be European. On the other hand, we have the paradox of tolerance as well. Tolerance versus intolerance simply doesn't work. There are many people who say that they are tolerant, but they are intolerant when it comes to our civilization. And in 10 years, we haven't managed to put up a united front in Europe on this. This is why today is a very special day. It's a good day to be able to say that after 10 years, Europe now has come together, that Europe is acting together as Europe, that is facing these challenges together. And this is under a commissioner from Austria, Magnus Brunner, which is particularly welcome. But he has done this for the whole of Europe. And this means that we can look to the future and think about integration with those who are here. And this is what our citizens are most concerned with. Thank you. I now give the floor to Ms. Ehlers. And I'd forgotten to wish our colleague Mr. Weimers a happy birthday, which I happily now do.
Dank u wel.
Thank you, President. Commissioner Brunner. The European electorate had been promised just to hang in there because the Migration Pact is coming and that's going to solve all the migration problems. But what happened then? Well, Member States had only just reached agreement on distribution of asylum seekers, and now the Commission is telling the Dutch citizens, you're getting new neighbours, but they're not telling us how many. We're going to keep those figures secret. Countries such as Poland and Hungary are not on board anymore, and absolutely right, because we have to stop hoping that agreements on paper that aren't even implementable now will solve this. We have to stop pretending as if mass migration is desirable. Illegal migration from non-Western countries costs billions. We don't need to share out better, we need to stop it, and we need to act accordingly. We have to make it less attractive for migrants to come to Europe. And those who are not allowed to stay must leave quickly and efficiently. That isn't a harsh policy, that is an honest policy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Ms. Kaminski, or Mr. Kaminski, rather.
Dear Commissioner, we are now at the initial stage of implementation of the Migration Pact. The very fact that this proposal on obligatory relocation has been delayed, significantly delayed, this very fact is very telling and shows us how controversial this instrument is. For Poland, this Migration Pact is unacceptable. We are not going to agree to have any illegal migrants to be relocated to Poland from other member states. We will not accept obligatory solidarity forcing us to pay for illegal migrants staying in other member states. Karol Nawrocki, the President of Poland, has written to the President of the European Commission and has been unambiguous. Poland is not going to accept it. The Migration Pact does not solve any migration-related problems. It exacerbates them. The only efficient way to cope with this problem is to protect our external borders. We need to limit the rights to asylum, and we need to be strict and consistent about readmission and deportation of illegal migrants to the countries of origin. This is the only way to ensure that our citizens are secure and the identity of Europe survives. Thank you.
The next speaker is Mr. Skierkowski.
Dear Chair, first of all, let me thank you for pronouncing my name correctly. Dear Commissioner, thank you for having the opportunity to discuss this topic here today, because I've been saying it for 12 years, and unmanaged migration is the largest internal problem that we have in Europe today, and it divides us far too much. That's why we need a systematic approach towards it. Yes, some people will tell you that the Migration Pact isn't working, but there are some very good things in there. We have united our methodology. What we need now is to shorten the deadlines for screening people, and those who are in the EU illegally, they need to be made to leave the EU. And I believe, I'm firmly convinced, And I do count on the Renew group, on the ECR group, and I do count on other democratic parties and groups to help us further this debate so that we can come to a conclusion as to how to make certain measures stricter as far as migration is concerned. Thank you.
Do you accept a blue card by colleague Wisniewska? Please, 361.
Dziękuję panu bardzo serdecznie.
Thank you very much. I have a question. Would you agree that it's the right way to introduce stricter controls on our borders to stop migration, illegal migration? The European Commission seems to have financed NGOs which were helping illegal migrants. I think this came to light during the budgetary assessment. Are you familiar with those documents that show that the European Commission in a non-transparent way was financing such NGOs?
Thank you very much for this question. I believe we should not finance anyone who works with the traffickers. The traffickers are the lowest dregs of society. These are people who abuse migration. They abuse people who are fleeing and are trying to get to Europe. And I believe that in the years 2014 to 2017, there were many fundamental mistakes there. Now, I believe the Commission has re-evaluated the situation, and I believe we need to lead an open dialogue with the Commission so that a situation like that does not repeat. If you don't love us, leave us. You have nothing to be gained in the EU. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then Mr. Laszlo next, please.
Do Europeans want the relocation of illegal migrants to their countries? No. Does the European Commission want to relocate illegal migrants across Europe? Yes. And we are just one step away from restoring the system of migrant relocation, a system that has already failed miserably 8 years ago. People want politicians who will stop illegal immigration, not manage it. Just a few minutes ago, we remembered the Islamist attacks in Paris, which claimed the lives of more than 130 people. They went through my country, the perpetrators. They went through your country, Commissioner. We built a fence and stopped illegal entry into Hungary. And then what happened? The European Commission sued Hungary, and the court fined Hungary 200 million euros and 1 million euros per day until we don't pay, until we don't change our laws. But we won't pay. Your country also built a fence, Commissioner. It gave it a funny name, Gate with Wings, to avoid calling it a fence. Now you invented another funny name for relocation, Solidarity Pool. You can't fool Europeans. They want to stop illegal immigration, and they want remigration. Thank you.
Now we're moving into the Catch the Eye procedure. We have quite a few people asking for the floor, but there's quite a political imbalance. We don't have EPP, no PFE, but I would like to ask for one person from each group that has asked for the floor to proceed. And we'll start with Andriukaitis, and Gosiewska can get ready to speak. 226.
Thank you, Madam President, Council representatives, Commissioner. You've listened to a wide variety of statements from MEPs full of hatred, full of misunderstandings, which exploit the national simple feelings of their voters so that to incite more hatred. And they do not pay attention to the rational aspects of the Commission report, which was introduced today. We need to say once again that if part of MEPs here violate the values of the European Union, the values of the Lisbon Treaty, and do not have not a single drop of humanism and don't understand what the migration policy is about, but they try to incite hatred as much as possible. How on earth can we agree with them? So you need to put forward further plans boldly so that we can resolve this very important problem. Thank you.
Dankeschön.
Thank you very much. I give the floor to our colleague Woziewska, and Böseleva can get ready to speak.
Thank you very much, President. Between 2022-23, Poland spent 106 billion PLN to help Ukrainians in every possible way. This is 3.8% of our GDP. From the very first day of the war, the Polish nation was helping Ukrainians unconditionally. 77% of the Polish people were participating in this effort, which amounted to 20 billion PLN. Where were you then? Who talked about solidarity? The whole burden of the biggest humanitarian crisis was on us. We managed without your assistance. Today, the very same officials which did not help us back then want to punish us if we fail to agree to obligatory relocation. This has nothing to do with solidarity. This is hypocrisy. This is unfair. Poland has done more for Europe than many rich Western member states. So it's a no on our part to the Migration Pact, and no to relocation, no to migration and people smuggling, because your proposal boiled down to this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Mr. Böselager, and then our colleague Oliveira.
Colleagues, we could see it today again. The one sole issue that makes the far right big is migration. And I therefore applaud the idea of building a European migration system and to bring order to our situation. The problem is, and I said this already 1 and 2 years ago, that a European system needs to be built on relocation. We have a geographic situation where some countries are at our borders and some are not. And what we see today, and I really pity you, Commissioner, for having to deal with this, we see a situation where Italy already says, if I don't see solidarity, I will not do asylum applications anymore. We see a situation where France on the other side says, no, we have to go ahead. So we did not solve the issue. And the reason is not the European Commission, colleagues. It is the member states that fail to come up with a real European system. There will not be a functioning European asylum system unless it is really European. We will see border controls and we will see no real solution. So let's go ahead and try to fix the system and build a real European system so that it works. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Mr. Veira, and our colleague Grazoulis can get ready to speak.
President. Thank you, President. Europe's migration policy and the Pact don't have the aim of dealing with the migration flux, with dealing with smugglers or dealing with criminals. No, the only goal is to continue to treat migrants unfairly and allow them to continue to be exploited. And then everyone can potentially be exploited, workers too, and everyone's living and working conditions worsen. And we've seen that from this debate. We see that it's unjust, where there's a lack of dignity when it comes to European migration policy. And a clear example of this is the solidarity mechanism. After this debate, it's become apparent that some countries are going to use the mechanism to basically refuse to accept anything, to refuse to apply it. They're going to continue to spread hatred against migrants and even against children, as Mr. Bouchardet did. This completely lacks dignity. Let's treat migrants as human beings who have the right to dignity and to a future.
Thank you very much. Our colleague Grazoulis, followed by our colleague Gost.
Colleagues, members of parliament, member of the Commission, Lithuania is also facing a serious problem concerning migration. It has erected a wall and it faces fewer migrants. Today we have other problems in our relations with Belarus. This problem is related to the incursions of air balloons to Lithuania. We have been facing this problem for 3 years, but earlier we didn't speak about it. Today, we are talking every day about this. Lukashenko is saying, let's set up a commission and let's discuss it, but Lithuania is refusing to do this. It is saying that we will be solving the problem from the force position, but what can you do? You cannot do anything. Now, some 5,000 trailers are stuck in Belarus. Lithuania is prohibiting drivers with Belarusian number plates to drive in Lithuania. You should force Lithuania to sit down at the table and...
I give the floor to Mr. Duster.
Napříč Evropou platí ústavami daný princip, že u svrchované...
In Europe there is a principle that it's the question of the country to decide. It's a sovereignty issue. There is not 1 week without attacks, and European countries are obliged to protect their citizens. Nothing in European law should cast doubt on that. Unfortunately, the Migration Pact is doing right that, and what is even worse, there is no transparency here. The Czech Republic accepted a lot of refugees from Ukraine. There was a massive migration situation, and there was a possibility to ask for a contribution without any guarantee. And there was, to the contrary, there were other countries that could use that money. Slovakia and Hungary also accepted hundreds of thousands, but they will pay without an exception, and there are no calculations. We don't know. This is not okay. Migration needs to be prevented. We can't support war in those countries, and Brussels officials cannot impose tax on member states. Thank you.
Dankeschön.
Thank you very much. Now there is the opportunity for the Commissioner to take the floor if he wishes to do so.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen, honourable members, Presidency, of course. Thank you very much for this engaged discussion today, of course. I know many of you were involved also in the initial work to make the Pact law, and for you especially, I think this is a very important day today and an important milestone. Thanks very much for all the work on the Pact you've done. And I think the Pact is a really very important step into the right direction also. It's not perfect. That's what we always say. Nothing is perfect in that respect, but it is a very solid base, I would say, to build on. And I have to say, and to be honest, it's better to have 70% than 0%. I mean, otherwise we would have nothing. We wouldn't have a system. And that's what we desperately, of course, need. But yes, we also need to improve and to complete it. This is what we propose to do with the new rules on returns, on safe third country, on safe country of origin. And with them, I think we can, of course, at the end, get a better system altogether. And today, I'm sure that we have taken another major step to make the Pact a reality also on the ground. And I do hear, of course, some of your concerns you have raised, and some of them also eco-concerns we hear from the member states as well. And I also recognize that you would have wanted to see these initiatives sooner. Maybe yes. And in this delicate transition year, I think it's quite worth to take some extra time. We took already to bring the member states closer together, on the one hand, to make it easier for the presidency until December. And I think, as I said, that time was very well spent also. Because getting the balance right is never easy, of course. And the rules of the Pact allow us the flexibility to fine-tune also our approach as we move forward. But what is not in question are the principles of solidarity on the one hand, of responsibility on the other hand, and also, as standing together as one European Union to make our migration policy effective, fair and firm, as we call it. And I think if we stick to these principles, I'm quite confident that we will succeed in the end. Thank you.
Herzlichen Dank, Herr Koch.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. And to conclude, I give the floor to the Minister Biera.
President, honourable members, Commissioner, as the Commissioner, Mr. Brunner, just said, this system is better than nothing. Adopting the Pact on Asylum and Migration was a historic success. It showed that compromise and EU-level solutions are possible, and that we are able to act together to manage migration, not leaving member states on their own. We're now going to have clear rules for asylum seekers, a more efficient system of asylum applications, and a system of solidarity between member states. The focus is now on the practical implementation. A lot has already been done, but as some of you also stated today, further efforts are still necessary. Effective coordination and political will are essential for success. Complementing the Pact with stronger measures on returns and increased and harmonized use of the safe country concepts will further help us. We trust that together we will be able to deliver on this important task. Thank you.
Herzlichen Dank.
Thank you very much. That concludes this debate.